Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Ananda, can you do me a favor? I have brought one, but I want another one. Can you? I think I left a, on my bed. There is a bundle of actually it's like this. So can you bring that, please? Now, friends, today we are going to study the Nalakalapi Sutta, or the sheaves of reeds from the Samyutta Nikaya. Now, I did this before with my people there, and because this sutta deals with the dependent origination, it's called the Paticca Samuppada, right? So therefore, I did the Paticca Samuppada, some of that, I discussed earlier. Now that is the one I have brought without the other one. So with you, I think I will do this straight away. But before that, I must say that I'm very happy to be here, and I thank Bhante and Ayya for inviting me and giving me all the support to stay here. So that's right. Okay, thank you. So, and I hope that the way I do this will help you to understand the sutta. Now, let me see which one it is. Yeah, this is the one. So, now, first of all, I must tell you that this sutta deals with the dependent origination a little differently from the way that now today we in the morning we chanted that. Remember, there are 12 links, but in this you don't get the 12 links, you get only 10 links. So, and it is given in a little differently from the way it is given in the dependent origination. Anyway, so the dependent origination formula starts with ignorance and ends with pain, grief, and despair. But in this sutta, it starts with birth and ends with consciousness. So that is the difference, right? So we'll be discussing that, and you can ask me any questions later on. So before we start, I think you all might be knowing this, but still I thought I will say this. That is an important aspect about these translations, is even Bhikkhu Bodhi, who has done these translations, have said that the translation into English is not just the exact meaning of the Pali word. So therefore, there are many differences in the meaning of the Pali word, the actual Pali word that we, that we see. So now, for instance, now if we take a few examples, bhavana. Bhavana means, now it is taken as meditation in English, right? Now, according to the dictionary, the meaning of meditation is to engage in continuous and contemplative thought. That's one meaning. Then, or think about or consider. In Pali, it's what is the meaning of bhavana? It means mental development, development of tranquility and insight. So that is to attain panya or wisdom. So panya is translated as wisdom in English, right? It means, in English, it means the power of true and right discernment, good practical judgment, and common sense. How do you like that? So anyway, so in Pali, panya means the insight knowledge which brings about realization or nibbana. Penetration of anicca, dukkha and anatta. You know, anicca means impermanence. Dukkha is given as unsatisfactoriness, and the anicca is non-self, right? So now we come back to the sutta. Now I just mentioned those things for you to understand the difference between what we really read here and the actual meaning of the Buddha word. So anyway, coming back to the sutta, now you find here, I will not be dealing with the sutta straight away in just the same way that the sutta is given, right? I'll be dealing with it in a different way. But anyway, it is a sort of, communication or dialogue between two arahants, right? Now, not just ordinary people, but two arahants. One was Venerable Sāriputta, and the other one was Venerable Maha koṭṭhita. They were both arahants. So Venerable Sāriputta, Venerable koṭṭhita comes to Venerable Sāriputta and asks a question. Now he does not ask the question because he doesn't know. He is asking the question for the others, who were listening, because there must have been many monks who were listening for their, for their understanding. He was asking this question from Venerable Sāriputta. Now this is the question. He did not ask one question, went on asking questions, right? Now the first question is aging and death created by oneself or by another or by both, right? We all face this aging and death, right? So now I am the most aged here, and so I will be facing death very soon, so much sooner than all of you. So anyway, but all of us have to one day face death, right? So the first question is this: is aging and death created by oneself? Do we create it, or by another does a god or somebody gives it to us, or by both, or has it arisen by chance? Now that is the question that he asked. So the Venerable Sāriputta answered, with birth as condition, aging and death comes to be, right? So you can see there is no creator, but it's a cause and result. Then now I'm going from question to question because it's rather long otherwise. The second question is, you see, Venerable koṭṭhita asks, is about birth. Now the first one was about aging and death, and then now the second one is about birth, based on the same four aspects, like is it done by me, by oneself, or by another, or by both. So the same way, then the answer is with existence, right? Bhava is existence. With existence as condition, you see, condition. It is condition means conditioned, or condition means that there is a cause and there is a result. So this is the condition. With existence as condition, birth comes to be. Because of existence, there is birth. Then the third question, right? Based on the same 4 aspects, right? That is, how does bhava come to be? The answer is with clinging, upadana, right? Clinging or upadana as condition, existence comes to be. Did you understand up to that point? Or are there any problems? No? Okay. So the 4th question is about clinging, upadana. And the answer is with craving, tanha as condition, clinging comes to be, right? That is how clinging comes. Condition is tanha. Then the 5th question is about craving. And the answer is with feeling or vedana, right? Vedana or feeling as condition, craving comes to be. Then the 6th question, that is about feeling. How does feeling come about? The answer is with contact, phassa as condition, feeling comes to be. Then the next one is about contact. The answer is with the 6 sense bases, right? Salayatana. As condition, contact comes to be. Then the next one is about salayatana. How does the 6 sense bases come to be? Then the answer is with name and form. Name and form. Nama, rupa, right? With name and form. As condition, the 6 senses come to be. Now the 9th question is, how does nama rupa come, right? And the answer is with consciousness or vijnana as condition, nama rupa comes to be. Now you get the change in the 12 links, right? The 10th question is, how does consciousness or vijnana come? Then the explanation is with nama rupa as condition, consciousness comes to be. Can you see the difference in the 12 links, right? Now here it stops there. The way it is here, how it is answered by Venerable Sāriputta is, vijnana turns back to nama rupa. Nama rupa, because of nama rupa, vijnana comes. And vijnana, when it comes to vijnana, the condition is nama rupa. So that is how it was explained. Now, Venerable Maha koṭṭhita asked Venerable Sāriputta to explain how vijnana and nama rupa come to depend on each other, right? This is dependent on this is dependent on the other. How does that happen? Then Venerable Sāriputta explains. Now that is how the name comes for this sutta. Venerable Sāriputta explains by means of a simile. That is what that is the topic of the sutta. So Venerable Sāriputta says, just as 2 sheaves of reeds, reeds, it can be bamboo even, right? 2 sheaves of reeds, or even this corn, the stalks of corn, might stand leaning against each other like this, leaning against each other. So too, with nama and with name and form, that is nama rupa, as condition, consciousness, vijnana, comes to be. With consciousness or vijnana as condition, name and form comes to be. Did you get it up to that? Right. So If one were to remove one of them, those sheaves of reeds, the other one would fall down. So too, with cessation of nama rupa, cessation of vijnana comes to be. Now that is what we read in the even in the dependent origination in the morning, right? But it starts with without any even a little bit left, right? With the total cessation of, right? So that now that is what it says. So too with cessation of nama rupa, cessation of vijnana comes to be. With cessation of vijnana comes cessation of nama rupa. So either one, when you know, ceases, then the other one also ceases, and that ends the whole mass of suffering. So now I'm going to say something that in Pali, because I think you will understand. Now nama rupa and vijnana, right? So now the Buddha says katamancha bhikkhave nama rupam. That means the Buddha is explaining what nama rupa is. Vedana, sanya, chetana, passo, manasikaro, idang uchati namang. Right? These are the things that make nama or name. That is what monks is name and form. Feeling, perception, intention, contact, and attention. Right? Now, this attention is manasikaro. Right? So, this is called name. There are 5 things. These 5 things are called name. Then, the rupa part. Chattaro cha mahabhuta, chatunnang cha mahabhutang, upadaya rupang, idang vicchati rupa. This means the 4 great elements. Can you tell me the 4 great elements? What?
Space, earth, fire.
No, space is not included in the 4. Yeah, earth,
water,
fire, yeah, right? So these 4, Buddha divides into different categories. So in some you get space also, in some others you get other things also added. So, but normally we get these 4 things, right? So these are the 4 great elements, and they are derivatives. Derivatives means the subdivisions that come from the elements, right? They are called rupa. So the form is, now when you take the form is both internal, that is the body with its senses, the senses, and the derived form, that is the derived form external, that is the physical world, right? Now when you look with the eye, you see something, a body or a form. When you hear sound, you hear, the ear is here, but the sound is there. So now let's look at nama rupa first. What is nama rupa? It has 5 factors. The first is feeling, vedana, right? When you say feeling, it's a little different from emotion. So this feeling is bodily agreeable feeling. That is called sukha vedana. Bodily disagreeable feeling, that is dukkha, right? Dukkha. Mentally agreeable feeling, chetasika sukha. Chetasika means manasa, the mind, right? Then mentally disagreeable feeling is chetasika dukkha. And there is another one called indifferent feeling or neutral feeling, and that is called upekha, right? You can say equanimity even, but Usually the word is upekkha. So with regard to the senses, there are 6 kinds of feeling because of the senses, right? That is associated with seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touch and thinking. A difference in feeling may decide whether a person is to be called a friend or foe, right? Now when you get when you see someone, you think that one is a little doubtful, like you know like that. The difference in feeling that you get decides whether that one is a friend or an enemy. So anyway, the object, that is the sense object, it's called the base. That can be any one of the senses. It's called a sense base, right? And consciousness, vijnana. Now there are 3 things that have to come together. Now when I look at you, I will not see you if vijnana did not come, the consciousness, right? So the 3 things are the sense base, whatever the sense base, the object of the sense base, and vijnana and consciousness. These 3 things have to come together in order for you to get the feeling. The feeling arises after that. This feeling may be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, as we said, right? Sukha, dukkha, or upekkha. Now the vijnana or ego consciousness, so this is not just ordinary consciousness. It's the ego consciousness that plays a part there, right? So the ego consciousness awakens, and sanya or perception causes thinking and forming views, which may cause one to speak. It may be an argument, it may be some kind of compliment or something, or explanation, or it can lead to conflict when you start speaking. Then if the object is pleasurable, what happens? Craving arises to either get it or to touch it or whatever, some kind of craving. And if it is unpleasant, then repulsive thoughts, like to get away from it. Or now that is also called craving, because it's a craving to do without it, to go away. So both are due to delusion or ignorance. Now whether it is a good pleasant feeling or whether it is all three feelings actually are due to ignorance or delusion. And at that stage, one may be powerless to control one's mind. Once that happens, you cannot control. So the controlling must come before that, right? It's only just a little bit before that. So anyway, to be truly happy, the Buddha says one should have the mind under our control and not we under the control of the mind, right? So then one should develop sati or mindfulness, so that one's mental and physical efficiency is strengthened. So if you have sati or mindfulness, before you get angry or before you want to turn away and go away from that person, you have mindfulness to face it, or just give a smile or whatever, right, whatever you could do to make the situation better. So anyway, then we may not react to situations rashly, but do so after thinking properly, thinking about it to do what, right? What we should do. Now the second factor of the nama rupa, that is name and form, is sanya or perception. The second thing that happens. The function of perception or sanya is recognition of objects, like is it dark or is it fair or is it blue or is it red or whatever the difference in the thing. So perception sees just in the same way, because of the 6 senses, perception also has these 6, right? 6 feelings. And perception sees the distinguishing marks of an object, whether the hair is curly or whether the hair is straight or whether, it's a fair skin or a dark skin or whatever. So, therefore, you could separate it from the other objects of the same kind. And so, sanya brings about memory also, right? Because when you see something, our former memories also are brought into that situation. But sanya often deceives us. When we fail to see the true nature of things, our views become clouded due to our earlier or past memories, attachments, likes or dislikes. We bring in all those things, that bundle of things that we have kept behind, we bring them, and the situation gets colored with that. Then we fail to see the sense objects as they truly are, so that our thoughts, ideas, and our seeing become perverted. One who clings to these sense perceptions, wrong views, are always in conflict with the world. That is why there are certain people who are always getting, into some kind of conflict, even if it was not necessary. Now, that is about the, not only in society, but even in their homes, right? Even in monasteries. So, anyway, so I don't see it here, of course, it's very good. So anyway, the third factor is chetana or intention. Now, chetana or intention, or it's called volition also, according to the Buddha, could be kamma, right? Chetana. Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami. I think you would have heard of it, right? So, for having willed, one acts by deed, word, and thought. It's not now. Sometimes we do something and say, "Oh, I didn't think about it." Actually, the thought had come, but it was too quick to pick up. You see, so that we are not conscious that we really thought about it and then did it. So that's how it happened. Then, intention is a deciding factor in all our activities, both good and bad. The result or effect is known as kamma. The result of what we do, good or bad. And it's called kamma vipaka because it's the result. This is what causes rebirth or jati. This natural law shows that the doer is responsible for the actions and their consequences. If one picks up a broom to sweep, there is no kamma. But if one assaults another with the broom, then it may cause bad karma. Or if one cleans around the stupa or the bodhi tree or somewhere, then it gives or it causes good karma. Greed, hatred, and delusion may lead to unwholesome acts, or their opposites, that is like generosity, loving kindness, things like that. Those are the good, the good actions. Or it may lead even to wisdom. These are wholesome acts. Sometimes our behavior may be determined by deep underlying tendencies. The deep underlying tendencies are called asavas, like lust, doubt, conceit, or grudges. Sometimes some people keep grudges and they go from birth to birth sometimes. You get these Jataka stories and so on, and also Dhammapada stories about how grudges have been, have gone from birth to birth. Our sensory contact with the external world also could lead to both attraction and revulsion, and our interpretation of them, right, may cause karma. Because if one is attracted, one may wish to possess, and then it might even lead to a killing, right? So there are so many instances of this kind of thing happening. I mean, you would have come across them. The fourth factor is phassa or contact. Now, contact or phassa could be through the senses or the mind. It could be through the senses or the mind, right? This contact happens by the sense faculty, sense object, and the sense awareness coming together. It's a physical action. Another kind of contact is through the mind, and then the mind labels the object of contact. For instance, one may see a red flower. Though one knows the color red, it's by mind consciousness that one really understands that the flower is red. You separate it from other things of that same color. The fifth factor is manasikara, right? The most important one is this, manasikara or attention. Here, attention means being heedful of the object. Without this mental factor, knowing or becoming aware cannot take place. But certain conditions are necessary. That particular sense faculty must be undamaged. Now, if it's the eye, if the eye has some kind of damage, or if the ear is not, if you can't hear properly, then that is why it has to be undamaged, whatever the sense faculty. Also, the external objects must be within range. Now, I can't contact people who are, on Zoom or something here, right? So, must be within range. And then the act of attention must be properly given. Must look at that object or must listen to that object, right? Now, there are certain people who, do other things while there is a Dhamma talk going on, right? So, that is not of much use actually. So anyway, now, yeah. So, if these conditions are not fulfilled, the cognition or the awareness will not happen. Many students who fail at examinations, do not understand the importance of this factor, manasikara. That is why they fail. So anyway, let's take up the other part of the form, rupa. This denotes the four great elements and their derivatives. By earth is meant solidity and hardness. Water, cohesion and fluidity. Fire, heat or cold. Can you see? You can see the two sides, both sides, heat or cold. Air, mobility and stretching. The form has derivatives such as the shape of the whatever, right? Shape. Then the color of the body, movement, the senses, breath, eating and digestion. All these things are called the derivatives. The impermanence, suffering and non-self nature of the form is not seen by the ordinary worldling. Even we find it so difficult to see it, isn't that so? That's why the Buddha advised looking at the parts to get a real picture. We have the 32 parts of the body. So there are things like that. Then the impurities, the changing, if you see from birth until now, right? the uncontrollability, you know that we cannot control even this body and mind, right, will become visible, and one may give up the attachment to the form when you realize this is not really what we think it is. Now, the two sheaves leaning on or dependent on each other in human beings are Nama Rupa and Vijnana, right? Nama Rupa and Vijnana are the two sheaves of reeds, right? We looked at Nama Rupa, and it's time to see what is meant by Vijnana. I hope it's not too long for you. I actually meant to do another one because I thought it will be easier if I start with an easier subject. But it's okay, isn't it? Okay. So, we looked at Nama Rupa, and it's time to see what is meant by Vijnana. According to Bhikkhu Bodhi, consciousness, the one who has translated this all these suttas, Vijnana or consciousness is the functional center of personal experience. While the outer world touches name and form or Nama Rupa, it's Vijnana or consciousness that experiences, recognizes, and interprets the action, right? So, without the consciousness, even if we have the Nama Rupa here, you know, we cannot know anything. Consciousness of Vijnana and name and form come together through necessity at 4 different times. That is, the first one is at conception, right? Second is at gestation or while in the womb, within the womb, right? Then the third one is at the time of birth. And the fourth one is during the course of life. These are the 4 times when consciousness comes into play. In dependent origination, Nama Rupa and Vijnana are the only 2 links that have a reciprocal, one-to-one, right, relationship. Vijnana, mind or consciousness, you can call Vijnana mind also, or even consciousness, does not stop even for a moment during the day and the night, and it changes in many ways. It doesn't stay in the same way. The Vijnana that you started with when you sat here is not the Vijnana now, right? Quite different. So, having arisen in one way, it ceases in a different way. Like a monkey that moves from tree to tree, holding one branch and grabbing another, lets go of the other, right? The mind too changes by turning from one object to another every second. You would have felt it now while listening. You might be thinking of some other thing, right? It's quite possible. I mean, it is not something that is uncommon. So, though it appears firm, consciousness is just a flux that arises in moments of being conscious. Now, when we are conscious only, it happens. It is not always there in some place, right, waiting for us to recognize it. But to those that believe in the theory of an eternal soul, it's this same consciousness or Vijnana that is taken as the soul, right? That is what they call the soul. The Buddha tells Mogaraja, that is a contemporary of the Buddha who lived at that time and who was a disciple later, to abandon the views and about soul and person, being and see as empty or sunya. Sunyata is the deepest reality of things. See, the emptiness. So, it means that anicca or impermanence is a characteristic of everything. that is made up of parts like our body, and all things are dependent on each other. You see, all things are dependent on each other. Now we, in the morning we went and had breakfast, right? So we are dependent on that. So the breakfast itself, how did it come to the table? You know, so many have participated in that. So through insight, we should bridge the gap between appearance and reality. Right? Now, if I ask you, what is this? Say we look at this statue, and I ask you, and what is it? You might answer what? What will you say? Statue. What else?
Stone. Stone.
Yeah. What will you say, Ananda?
Stone in the shape of Buddha.
Yeah. So it is really a stone or whatever, you know, is made up of. I don't know what it's made up of, but it's really that, isn't that so? But someone might say it's the Buddha, but it's not so, right? So reality and appearance are quite different. The Buddha says that the ordinary person finds it hard to realize the three characteristics of anicca, impermanence, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, and anatta, or non-self. But seeing the growth and decline of the body, of one's own body, may experience a revulsion for the body. You see, but that doesn't mean that you must, you know, think of it as something dirty and then, you know, think of committing suicide or something, like some monks did those days, you know. So the body is the body. Everyone's body is the same, right? So still, that one may never be able to become dispassionate towards the mind and consciousness, because one has grasped it as mine and me for a long time. The body can be at least, you know, thought of as impure, and you know, you can think of it, but the mind is not like that. We have grasped it and think of it as my mind, and it is something that we treasure such a lot. Right? Vijnana, or consciousness, is a trickster that makes us believe that a person is walking, sitting, eating, talking, sleeping, etc. But it's an illusion. The Buddha compares vijnana, or consciousness, to a magician who displays a magical illusion because it is insubstantial and cannot be grasped. It's even more transient and fleeting than an illusion, for it gives the impression that a person speaks, acts, etc., with the same mind. Now, as I told you, mind has changed, right? So, but at each action, the mind changes and is different. Though it is necessary to clean our body daily, it's equally important to clean our minds, for that is where all decisions are made and all actions are planned and plotted. If properly guided, the mind could be our helper and guide instead of our enemy that creates bad karma through anger, jealousy, pride, etc. Then constructive opposite emotions like tolerance, altruistic joy, humility, compassion may take over. You see, this cannot happen suddenly. We must exert our total effort to practice even for an hour daily. See the different parts of the body while meditating. See the air entering and leaving. When you eat, see how taste occurs at the tongue, right? When touch occurs, see how it happens and ends. If you see the different sense organs at work, you will understand this body or rupa in a way never seen before. Each sense organ has to be seen separately and not together. Hand, like that, Even walking is not done by a person. When walking, try to see the movement as if watching from outside. Our health is transformed when we stay in the present, right? Physical health and the mind and inner peace is not in the past. The past is gone. When keeping the mind in the present, emotions stay pure and clean. For one could transform emotions by changing the negative to the positive. So suddenly when we see somebody and we dislike that person, the mind changes, right, to negative. But we could, put it back to positive. Everyone wants to be happy. Do they find it all the time? Some may say, not every day, but sometimes. Others may say, not at all. Why? Because we always try to find happiness through our senses. Even mundane happiness cannot come from the outside world that we receive through the senses. Meditation can change our attitude and wishes. We'll become more understanding, develop compassion, see the suffering of others, and will want to help. If we help others and show compassion, we'll be content and happy. This happiness can lead us towards liberation, which is our goal. We should see the two bundles of Nama Rupa and Vijnana in their proper context. And as Venerable Sāriputta said, if one falls, the other two will fall down for lack of support. Thank you.
Sadhu, 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 anumodami.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you so much, Ayya, for that beautiful Dhamma talk. We also have quite a few people online that are listening live and are typing in questions. So
okay.
I can
you
pass
can
them
read
on.
this, by yourself, the whole thing. Then it will be much more meaningful.
Great.
Yeah.
So maybe I can go and see. Well, hello to all the friends online that are watching. And Gita Jnana asks, Venerable, in order to break through the links when one's feeling meets craving, one must use mindfulness and noble wisdom prior to reaction by seeing impermanent suffering and non-self.
Yes, it's not easy to see at once. Impermanence, out of these three, impermanence is the one that is easier to see because we see it in everything, right? If we see it properly, it'll be easier to see the other two, or the other two will follow. In the dependent origination, it is at that point that we cut off, before the grasping comes, upadana, right? And when we do that, then it's easier to look at the reality.
Okay, thank you. And Gita also says, does this mean we should always have full awareness and mindfulness before we react to anything that we encounter, essentially training our mind?
If that is possible, that will be the greatest thing on earth. But it's not always possible. But at least after we have reacted, perhaps, if we realize that we have reacted in the wrong way, perhaps the next time a similar thing happens, we will know what to do. But not always possible, because we are all still putujjana. Right? So we have to have that wisdom to understand when and where we should react or not react. Silence is golden, Buddha says, right? So like the Buddha who when asked certain questions, he would be just silent. When something is not proper, not exactly our what we want to think about, he could be silent, and much better than reacting in a negative way.
Thank you so much, Venerable. And Kumu asks, Ayya, is there a consciousness apart from the 6 consciousness of the 6 sense organs, including that of the mind sense organ?
It's not, I don't think it is so. Is there? What do you think, Bhante?
This is a long topic of debate. Yeah, so there's no short answer. But some people would say yes and others would say no. And both people can use suttas to support their viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And always the Buddha's Dhamma does not agree with science. But it has survived 2,600 years. So it must be the truth. And we experience it every day, right? So therefore, according to this, it's the 6 senses only. Because now when someone is alive, but because of an accident or something, that person's consciousness is not working, then though alive, that person doesn't become aware of anything, right? So it shows that it's the senses that are responsible for all our misdeeds or good deeds.
Thank you, Venerable. And Kum also follows up is saying, in the dependent origination, does the vijnana change based on the sense organs used, or does the mind consciousness get involved in all the other 5 sense organs as well, make a combined vijnana consciousness?
I didn't catch it exactly. Can you please repeat it?
Does the vijnana, like in the dependent origination, paticca samuppada, does vijnana change based on the sense organ used? Or does the mind consciousness get involved in all the other 5 sense organs as well as make a combined vijnana consciousness?
Okay. Actually, the vijnana combines with each sense organ, isn't it? Each sense organ. Now, if it's the eye, the ear also. Now we think that we are now when we are watching. Say we are watching TV. I don't watch, but we are watching TV, but and we hear as well as see. But actually, the two things don't come together. It's one after the other, right? So therefore, each sense organ works separately with the vijnana.
Thank you. And Lynn asks, what is the weak point in those 12 links of dependent origination? How can we break any link of due to get liberation from that circle of dependent origination?
Okay, now avijja paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, vijnana paccaya nama rupam, nama rupa paccaya salayatana, salayatana paccaya passo, passa paccaya vedana, right? Vedana paccaya tanha. So that is the place where you can break, because the rest of it, of course, it normally happens. You cannot stop it. An arahant might be able to stop, but the normal person cannot stop So, but at that point, yeah, break it up.
Hmm.
That is the point where you break up and, do whatever, if you can, if you have the mind to change. Yeah.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That's great. Thank you. And are there questions from our residents?
So to understand correctly, I want to make sure I understand correctly. One is not able to change craving?
Is that the question?
Yes, ma'am. Maybe I misunderstood your previous answer, but
craving is something that might occur. Sometimes even we don't know that it has happened, but it can happen. And according to what the text says, it's only an arahant who can be, or a person who has reached the third stage, right? That is sotapanna, sakadagami, anagami stage, or arahant, who will be able to, control completely. Now, an arahant may take food without, tasting at all. Now, we do taste, isn't that so? But an arahant will take whatever is given, whatever is there, without any sort of craving for anything. Now, you know about Mahakassapa. One day, I think you might be knowing this story anyway. Mahakassapa, one day when he went on an alms round, a leper put something into his bowl. You know the story?
oh no.
Oh, good. Then I am telling you the story. So, so put something into the bowl. That is what he was eating. He put into the bowl. What was left of it. Along with it, a finger fell into the bowl. Right? The lepers, their little parts sort of fall down. So now, supposing we found that. Now, when we find even a hair in our soup or something, we will feel a little repulsive, isn't that so? Mahakassapa just took it out and ate what was in the bowl. Why? Because he had no craving whatsoever. He just took the food for sustenance, not to taste, not to enjoy, right?
Can an unenlightened being change? Can an unenlightened being cut karma in the chain of dependent origination?
You mean now this is not craving but karma, is it?
No. Can an unenlightened being change their karma by cutting craving in the chain of dependent origination? And at what point?
It's something that we have to attempt little by little, just like everything else. You see, now you get even in the training, you get gradual training. You see, not suddenly coming into, we can do things now. We can follow the discipline. We can do all these things, but if we don't put in our bit, that is our consciousness there, even if we do all these things, they will not mean anything. So even craving, it is now, I can tell you of my own experience. That is, now, one day, it so happened, now I'm just giving you an example, right? One day there was another woman staying with me, and she always has loose hair, right? So you can imagine now what is coming. I got this oats made, and when I was eating, the hair came, right? And before it could come into my mouth, I was able to discern it. I saw it. So I took the hair out, and then I thought, now what am I going to do? I thought of Mama Kassapa.
So at what point does the
when I thought of Mahakassapa, I thought, if he could, being an arahant, he was such a princely man, before he came to the Buddha. He had so much of wealth, and he gave up all that and came there, and now he found this finger and then he took it out and ate the rest of it. Why can't I eat this? I ate it. So it is just like that, that we have to train ourselves. However much we might at that point feel repulsive, because we are all still not reached that stage. But we could push ourselves there, little by little.
So an unenlightened being can change their karma.
Can definitely. Otherwise, how can an unenlightened person become enlightened?
What point in the chain does that come?
It is at the point where you realize that you want to change, right? You want to change, and then you know, this is what I should do. Each situation needs a different solution. You can't put that particular Mahakasapa's example to everyone, everything. Each one is different. You could take many examples from the Buddha's life itself. So if we take them literally, think of them as living examples, we could change quicker, because we know that we are also living now. Though they lived 2,600 years ago, for me, the Buddha is still living.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much, Ayya. And
Any other questions?
Yes, there's actually Champika online. Good to see you, Champika, who says, what is the difference between chitta and cetasika? I believe that's...
There is no difference, I think. Is there a difference between chitta and cetasika?
Not really. It's like a noun and an adjective, but they're from the same word. So chitta is mind, cetasika is mental.
Yeah,
related to mind. But it's basically the same
yeah,
thing.
the mind has many different. Now even vijnana is mind. So different words are used at different times by the Buddha as well as the Arahants. And cetasika, I'm not very familiar with the Abhidhamma, of course. So it comes in Abhidhamma, isn't it? So cetasika, yeah. It looks like the mental cetasika objects, is it? Mental objects?
Mental factors.
And the other one is, what is the other word?
Chitta.
Chitta itself is the mind, and cetasika, the mental factors, maybe, right?
Great, thank you, Ayya. And Pial says, is perception of solidity, distorted perception, main obstacle for the perception of impermanence, the eventual realization of emptiness?
Can you please repeat it?
So is the perception of solidity, so basically...
Perception of the?
Solidity. So this being
solidity,
solid.
okay.
Yeah, is that which is basically an example of distorted perception. Is that the main obstacle for the perception of impermanence?
No, I don't think it is that, because that is the solidity is the quality that is in the earth element. Just like in the water element you get fluidity. So those are the qualities. You can't change those qualities because those are in us too. Now, what is again, can you please repeat what?
So is the perception of solidity, which is distorted perception, the main obstacle for the perception of impermanence? And what?
No. Yeah, I wouldn't say that, would you?
Depends on what they mean by solidity.
Yeah, it's a little confusing the way it is.
I would say if by solid they mean something that doesn't change, then I would say yes, that's the problem.
Yeah. Now, when you say yes, solidity, if you take something, now say our body, as something that does not change because of its solidity, then that is an obstacle to impermanence. But actually, though the quality of solidity is there, the fact of changing does not vary. The change takes place, but the quality remains. The quality of the solidity. When you say solidity, it means that there is something that you can touch, that you can feel. But on the other hand, it does not remain the same. That you have to see within yourself.
Great, thank you so much, Ayya. Any other questions from our very live audience? Our solid audience. All right, so maybe that's all for this morning. So we can end with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much, Ayya Sudinna. So Ayya Sudinna is visiting Empty Cloud for the week. So you can tune in again this evening. Actually, there will be a monastic panel that will include Ayya Sudinna that will be exploring one topic that right now I don't remember which topic it is, but you can see it online. And tomorrow morning, she will offer another Sutta study, as well as Friday morning, so 8 a.m. New York City time. And Thursday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. New York City time, we will have tomorrow another panel of monastics exploring the subject of karma. And then on Friday evening, we'll have monk chat. So any questions that you have related to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, or also if you have questions for Ayya Sudinna about how she became a monastic, since you always ask us, this time you can ask Ayya Sudinna, as well as Bhante Sanata Vihari, who is also here. You can have different stories. That's all on Friday evening. If you're around the monastery in New Jersey at Empty Cloud, you will have the opportunity of meeting both Bhante Sanata Vihari and Ayya Sudinna in person. So on Saturday at 6 p.m., meditation on the lawn, and on Sunday we'll have different activities during the whole day. So you can come either for morning meditation, for the meal, or for Dhamma talk with Ayya Sudinna in the afternoon. All right, may you all be well and happy, and may all good things come to you. See you this evening.